This episode of the Dorking Out Show podcast is brought to you by Spacely Sprockets. Tomorrow's technology, today.
And the letter I, because you can't spell iTunes without I. Have you reviewed us on iTunes yet? You should review us on iTunes. Unless you have something bad to say, then you should keep your damn mouth shut. You hear me?
Houston, flight is go.
Milo, let's go.
From Assignment X, Amalgamated Storytelling, and thesoniashow.com, it's The Dorking Out Show with Christopher Allen Smith and Sonia Mansfield.
Welcome to episode 11 of Dorking Out, a podcast for people who like to dork out about stories and the stories in pop culture that we love. That means movies and TV, books and podcasts, and pretty much everything else. With me today is my co-host, Emmy Award-winning filmmaker and nerd author, Christopher Allen Smith.
Hey there, Sonia.
Hello.
And with me today is my co-host, professional writer and author of The Sonia Show, Sonia Mansfield. So on today's show, we're going to look into our crystal ball and talk about what stories are coming up in the fall of 2016 on television. This would be our fall TV preview, but frankly, there is too much television to fit into our crystal ball. The crystal ball cracked and shattered because there's too much stuff coming down the pike. So we're just going to be grabbing the brightest diamonds and showing them to you as something that you might enjoy watching in fall 2016. We're going to do this with our old friend, Peter Brown, associate editor of Assignment X. Then, in topic 2, Stephen Colbert's first year as host of CBS's The Late Show has just come to a close. Did we lose one of our brightest comic voices, even though he's on television every night still? My answer is yes. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the state of late-night television in general, kind of how it's changed over the last couple of years and what we're watching now. All that, plus our favorite headlines of the week when we come back. Topic 1. Our fall television preview and our exploded crystal ball of what's coming up because it just could not hold the pressure of all the upcoming television shooting through the airwaves, shooting through the internet, right at you, right now. Don't think too hard about the end point of that metaphor. So, you know,
I feel like I should be more excited.
Well, you should, but it doesn't matter, because here's the thing, is we are in deep, deep triage mode. There is so much television coming down the pike, from networks to cable to online to various technology companies to whatever. John Landgraf from FX said at the last TCAs, I believe, that 2 years ago he said he thought we had reached peak TV and that there's no way the industry could sustain as many scripted programs as were coming out. Then I think it was about 350 when he said that. Now it is north of 400, moving to 500. So a traditional fall television preview is impossible. So what we're going to do is we're going to pluck out the things that we're excited about, that we want to talk about, and then as the year goes on, when good things bubble up, we will be sure to tell you. We're living in an age of television where we can be the 1% of television watchers. There is no reason ever again to watch awful TV. There's no reason to watch even mediocre television. There's not even reason to watch stuff that's just good. You can...
Big Bang Theory.
Exactly. Well, which category does that one fall under? Don't answer that. Now you can watch unbelievably great television from start to... You can watch nothing but nearly perfect classic legendary shows. So, with all that being said as a preamble, we're going to talk about some of the stuff that we are excited about. This is the fall TV preview, so it's going to be from now until the end of the year, except one of us is going to break the rules because he just
He's
can't
a
help himself.
cheater.
That's right. Cheater, pumpkin eater. Peter Brown
Yeah.
from Assignment X, associate editor of Assignment X, one of the greatest pop culture thinkers of our time.
Wow.
It's wide net. What is one of your favorite television shows, or one of the shows that you're most interested in seeing this fall? Let us know.
Okay, so wait, that was two things. My favorite television shows and the things I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I corrected myself. What are you most excited about seeing?
I was gonna say I'll take about my favorite television shows.
All right.
No.
Now I'm gonna double back again. I'm gonna make you talk about it. What's your favorite television show coming up?
Yes. So you know what I'm looking forward to the most actually this fall is Westworld, HBO. Just because I think that HBO has done such good stuff in the last maybe 10 years, I guess, maybe even longer now, with so many different series and so many different things, from Rome to Game of Thrones, Sopranos, True Blood. You got all, just keep going down the list, and like there's not really a bad show there. And so I'm happy. I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with this really interesting concept about an amusement park that, well, at least the original concept was the original movie dealt with an amusement park that was run by robots, and then there was a murder, and they had the guy got called in to investigate. So I'm not sure exactly how the series is going to shape up, but from what we've seen from the previews, it looks really cool. And with HBO doing it, I'm like all in.
Yeah, this was on my list originally too. Like, I'm really excited for this one. I think it looks really great.
Yeah. I'm all in for it. I'm like, sign me up. You don't have to tell me anymore. I'll be there day one.
Now, this is coming from J.J. Abrams and Jonathan Nolan. Christopher Nolan's brother wrote the script. He also co-wrote the last two Dark Knight movies, I believe. And then he moved over to this. And if I remember correctly, HBO's had some tough moments behind the scenes in their drama department. And Westworld, I think, got shut down for a couple of months.
Yeah. I think it was supposed to debut last year, actually. Yeah. And I think they had some production problems and maybe a little bit of internal strife. So, that's always a little worrisome. But HBO, kind of feel like you're in good hands, as Sonia loves to say.
I do.
And I kind of feel that way here. I'm not going to throw shade at that. I think that I'm going to wait and see. And if it turns out to be terrible, then, it'll be terrible. But right now, I'm super excited for it.
Let's just hope it's not another Vinyl. but you're right. I am.
Or another John from Cincinnati.
That's right. I'm being a little smartass right there. But if you think about it, even the shows that HBO said no to have gone on to become classics. Mad Men, Breaking Bad, The Shield. There's, I basically every House of Cards was going to be an HBO show. So yeah, pretty much even the stuff that HBO says no to.
Yeah, and let's not forget Deadwood. Deadwood's HBO, Boardwalk Empire.
That's right.
They've had just hit after hit after hit. So
yeah, I agree. Sonia Mansfield, what are you excited about?
I am really excited for the reboot of Home Improvement. I love Tim Allen. Just kidding. I don't think that really exists. No, so one of my most recent favorite television shows was Parks and Recreation. That show was a joy to watch. I thought it was so funny. And the co-creator of Parks and Recreation has a new show coming on NBC called The Good Place with Kristen Bell. And Kristen Bell, she plays Veronica Mars. She dies and she goes to the good place, quote unquote, by mistake. And I just think the preview looks really funny. Like, you can't swear in The Good Place, and you could drink 5 bottles of wine and you don't get a hangover. And supposedly everybody in The Good Place is really nice, and she's someone who isn't really nice. She's in heaven by mistake. And I just think it looks really funny.
That looks good. Now, that's with Ted Danson also, isn't it?
That's right.
Ted Danson coming back to comedy.
Fresh off his CSI.
Oh, that's right.
I'm
lengthy CSI roles. Yeah,
I will say, like, I think the preview looks really funny, and this one I think really just gets on my list because of the goodwill I have towards The Office and Parks and Recreation.
Well, I mean, when it comes to trying to figure out what you should give a chance, it's not a bad bad system.
But the preview did make me laugh. I thought it was pretty funny.
Cool.
Can I guess Smith's first pick?
Yeah.
Can I do the Swami?
Okay, be the Swami. See if you see if you can get. I think you're going to get one, but I'm pretty sure there's no way in hell you're going to get the other two.
Okay, I'm going to go this. It's a crazy white cop who has a black partner who says, "I'm too old for this S."
What? Oh
he thinks one of your picks is Lethal Weapon.
Oh my God. Wow. The only way a mention of Fox's Lethal Weapon reboot could make it onto this show is by you mistakenly guessing it. Because otherwise, Lethal Weapon never would have even been mentioned in this broadcast. No.
No?
I'm
shocked.
Yeah, I'm sure you are.
That almost made my list.
My first choice is Dana Gould, one of my favorite comedians, one of the classic writers from the classic era of The Simpsons, has a new show coming out on IFC called Stand Against Evil. And it looks like a lot of fun. It's basically kind of a Night of the Living Dead zombie spooky. He's really into old horror movies, into all that kind of stuff. It's imagine a Simpsons writer writing a horror show, and it stars John C. McGinley from from what?
So you're saying imagine a Simpsons writer writing a horror movie, so it's like the Halloween episode.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Treehouse of Horror.
Yes, it is a series of Treehouse of Horror.
Then
It looks really
funny. I will
funny.
watch that because those are some of the funniest episodes they put out.
In our show notes, it has John C. McGinley's other credits, which are blanking. Scrubs! Good Lord.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I could have filled in that blank for you.
You know, I got to tell you, what I'm most fearing right now is that among our first emails of to the show is going to be some sort of neurologist that it diagnoses me based on what pops out of my mind at the moment I need it. Scrubs, one of my favorite comedies of the last 15 years. John C. McGinley. He's in a new show with one of my favorite writers, and I can't even remember he was on Scrubs. So do with what you can with that, doctors. So yeah, that's coming up. I believe it premieres the week of Halloween, appropriately enough. So we're going to have a link to the preview in our show notes. It's going to be awesome. Peter Brown, what's your number 2 pick?
My number 2 pick is Luke Cage, Netflix, Marvel, television. The latest in their continuation of building towards the Defenders. Following Daredevil and Jessica Jones. And I'm pretty pumped for this just because Luke Cage is such an interesting character in comics, and from what we saw from him and Jessica Jones, it kind of seems like he's going to be kind of more of a kind of neighborhood superhero, which is kind of interesting as well because he's not necessarily that in the comics. So this guy basically has the same powers as some of the like big guys in the Avengers, and he's basically invulnerable. He's got superhuman strength. So I'm pretty excited. In the previews they showed, the trailers have been looking really good, and so I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with that character.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see it too. I really like the first season of Daredevil, and I've kind of noticed, why I gave the little soliloquy about not even having to watch good shows or bad shows or whatever at the beginning of this is because I haven't had time to finish. I watched the first 4 or 5 episodes of Jessica Jones, a fantastic show. I hear it's got one of the great villains of television.
Yep.
Haven't had a chance to finish it. Haven't had a chance to touch the second season of the Daredevil.
Which I think is actually much better than the first season.
Which you could be right. Which I should really watch because I think the best villain in the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe is Fisk from season 1 of the Daredevil.
Kingpin. Yeah,
right. But I just haven't had a chance to touch any of it, and so I'm excited to see Luke Cage when I get the chance 2 or 3 years from now. Right now, I'm putting it on my to-do list.
Yeah, Jessica Jones is one of those shows too for me that I really want to watch and have watched like the first 2 episodes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is really good, and I still haven't finished it.
Yeah.
So sad because
it's one of those where you kind of like sit there and you're like, well, it's still there. It's going to be there for a while. I'll go and watch, something else right now.
Yeah.
Sony Mansfield, what is your second pick?
Okay. Here's where everybody makes fun of me. Again.
MacGyver.
It's MacGyver. You guessed it. No, it's Lethal Weapon. No, I'm just kidding. No, so I really like baseball. We've talked about this on the show before. So I am very curious about this new Fox show called Pitch, which they say is set in the very near future, in which a young female pitcher joins Major League Baseball.
That could be cool. It could be. It's funny. If that was on HBO or FX or Showtime or AMC, I would definitely give that show a chance.
Yeah.
But it could just be my network television bigotry kicking in.
You are.
I do not trust network executives and the notes that they give. They always cast people 15 years too young and 1 or 2 numbers too hot.
Right.
If the police detective on an HBO show or in real life would be like a 4 in real life, for some reason there's some ripped cut 8 on an NBC show.
The picture in the preview, you will see the female pitcher. She is quite pretty.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't
Surprise.
say. I wonder how that
Spoiler
happened. I guess it was the latest in the 1,000 number long lucky streak that attractive people have had in Hollywood.
I am really looking forward to watching this show. I don't know if it's going to be super good and it'll like make the cut and I'll watch it every week, but I am really curious to watch the pilot.
Do you think that people are going to have similar reactions to the Ghostbusters with this?
Because of Pitch?
Because it's a woman?
So.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think so. There's no woman in baseball.
Talking about when a woman finally does join the MLB.
I think they're gonna just.
If you're talking about the TV show, no, they're not even gonna care. But if you're talking about an actual like real life,
right? Oh, that's baseball, when they're gonna care. Okay.
Yeah, then they will care. Then it'll turn into like this is a man's game. Blah blah blah.
Here's the thing: is with sports, I hear what you're saying. But I think if she could throw a 105-mile-an-hour fastball, that's the great thing about sports is you could have all the haters that you want, but if she could throw, she'd get in, and I think there'd be a lot of people that would be happy about that. If they're going to bitch about it on network television, no, because they probably won't even notice that the show comes and goes.
Probably, but I still am looking forward to watching it.
Cool. All right, so.
Smith. What's your next pick, Smith?
All right. This is the other one that Peter is not going to be able to guess. This is Netflix's The Crown. Don't ask me why I'm interested in this. It's a retelling of Queen Elizabeth's life from before she was queen and her father was kind of leading Britain through World War II with Winston Churchill and all that, and then up to, I don't know, somewhere in the 80s. I watched the preview. It looks interesting. It looks good. There was, for everybody who thinks that I'm just this Marvel comic booky sci-fi fanboy,
You are those things.
I stand before you as a man who has seen every minute of Downton Abbey. from the beginning to the end, every damn minute of that show. There's something about a well-made British costume drama that I just love. So, The Crown, coming to Netflix. I'm very interested. I'm going to watch it. Sonia and Peter, take your shots. Now's your chance.
I don't know anything about The Crown.
I don't know. I was going to say, I don't know one thing about it. Not one thing. I watched The Tudors. Does that count?
See, that's another one that's on my to-do list. That's one of those things. Yeah, this is the story reveals the political rivalries and romance behind Queen Elizabeth II's reign and the events that shaped the second half of the 20th century. That's the show. There you go. So, Peter, what is your last pick?
So my last one is the one of a few time traveling shows that's coming out this fall, which is interesting that almost all the network shows are coming out with in each of their a time travel show, and the one that I'm most interested in. Oh, sorry, what was that?
I was say they love to do that. It's like when every film studio put out a volcano movie. That's
true.
You're not joking.
Running pairs and triplets. So yeah. Anyway, the one I'm most interested in is Timeless, which is it's on NBC, which already kind of gives me a little pause. But it's basically about villains who are kind of trying to change the past by time traveling, and so another group sends the good guys in to time travel into the time stream to stop them. And so theoretically, you're going to have every week they're going to be visiting a new timeline and kind of stopping these bad guys from changing history. So
that sounds a little bit like Quantum Leap when they introduced the evil leaper.
That's a great idea.
Evil leaper.
So
I like Quantum Leap. Actually, it's not one of my favorite time traveling shows.
I loved Quantum Leap.
I like Sliders. Sliders was good when that was on. Got a little weird at the end, but yeah, it was pretty good. There was a movie on Netflix a while back called Parallels. I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but it basically dealt with a bunch of people going through parallel universes and kind of showing how, like, one was like an apocalypse world, one was like a very high technological world, and so they kind of just kept going through these things. And then there was also a film called Project Almanac, which came out in 2015. Yes. And it's actually a very, very smart time travel movie. It has a lot of different twists and very interesting plot lines. So it can be done. The time travel shows can be done well. Like I said, NBC. It's on NBC, so I'm going a little cautious. Yeah. But the idea sounds good, and what I saw of the previews, it looked good too. So I'll check it out.
So, as you were talking about this, I went and Googled time travel shows coming up in fall 2016. Mm-hmm. There's not one. There's not two. There's not three. There's 4 shows coming up. NBC, ABC, Fox, and the CW. Timeless, Time After Time on ABC, which is H.G. Wells, travels to 2016
right,
in pursuit of Jack the Ripper. That's a remake
of the movie, right?
And a time travel show. Then there's Making History, which is essentially kind of a comedy take on this, where people go back to the Revolutionary War. And then there's Frequency. A police officer discovers she can talk to her deceased father over a ham radio. She soon discovers she's talking to him the day he died years earlier, spelling the consequences. So that's a remake and a kind of a time travel story. So there you go. A
comedy about time travel and the Revolutionary War.
That's right.
Because those are so hilarious.
That's right. So there you go. All right. Sonia Mansfield, what is your final pick?
So my final pick is a show that's coming back that used to be on the WB and is now going to be on Netflix. And that show is called Seventh Heaven. No. No. I'm very excited to come back to the Gilmore Girls, which is going to be returning to Netflix in November.
Why?
I didn't know if this counted as a new show or not.
It counts. Yeah, it counts. So tell me, what is it about the Gilmore Girls? Because I've heard a lot of people talk about it. It's one of those shows I've heard people just love it up and down. but I haven't seen an episode. I don't know really anything about it. What is this? What is the thing of this show?
So you want to know what the show's about? That's what you're asking me.
Yes.
So yes, it stars Lauren Graham as a single mother. Her daughter's Rory is Alexis Bledel. I think I'm pronouncing that right. She had her daughter when she was very, very young. Like she got pregnant at 16 and then ran away from home and had her daughter. And they're kind of like more like best friends than mother-daughter. And there's that kind of relationship. And then she has Lauren Graham's parents are like super rich people who like, you know, she brings them back into her life. It's just a very sweet show. It's all about relationships. Everyone's super smart and says witty things. And they all talk the way we wish we could talk. Like, I wish I could sound like that right now trying to describe the show. I'm failing miserably. And they all, you know, dress awesome. And everyone's a kook and a character in the small town she lives in. Kind of Northern Exposure-esque.
Okay. All right.
But it's set in Connecticut.
So there's that. So that's a drawback. But other than that, it sounds great.
The show ended a couple years ago with, you know, Rory, that's the daughter, like joining the Obama campaign and like graduating from college and things like that. And I'm just excited to see where it picks up.
It would have been
I
great.
really love the characters, and I'm excited to see where they are. I'm using the word excited too much.
No, it's fine. It's funny. It would have been great because The West Wing kind of ended like that, where it's like Jimmy Smits was some Obama-like character, and he goes off and becomes president or whatever. I have not seen one frame of the Gilmore Girls. But how great would it have been if she graduates from college and then she goes off to join the McCain campaign? And then she gets like,
well, that would have been not her at all.
She gets detailed onto the Sarah Palin. You know, she's like Sarah Palin's assistant, and then it's just like that's it. I guess we won't know. And the show goes off the air in like July or June or July of 2008. So it's like I guess we'll never know what happens to Rory. We know,
right? I think I'm not a super big fan of like of people like revisiting old shows. So like we were talking off mic before about Fuller House and things like that. It's like, I don't watch Full House. I don't know why it's a thing. I don't know why they brought it back. I kind of felt the same way about Arrested Development. Go ahead and send your angry tweets to me.
No. Send your angry tweets to Peter.
That's right.
Like,
Sonia said it, but leave her alone. Send him to Peter.
We need to revisit everything, you know, and not everything. Like sometimes canceled is canceled, you know.
That's right.
But with Gilmore Girls, I feel like there's a lot of story there, and they're such wonderful characters that you could very easily revisit them every couple of years and see where they are.
Right.
That's how I feel about Gilmore Girls.
I heard they're going to revisit Moonlighting next.
I hope they do.
You know what? That's not a bad idea. That show had a lot of fun in it. I could definitely see a fun modern version of Moonlighting.
I think Bruce Willis would be down for it.
I would not watch that episode. I would not watch that version in any form. I agree with you, Sonia.
What is your last pick?
I agree that they should not be rebooting and revisiting every television show that's ever been out. Why go back to MacGyver or Lethal Weapon or any of these shows? However, there is one show that I think needs to be revisited every decade from now until the end of the Republic. And that is...
The end of the Republic in a few months.
Oh my God, you're right. So thank God Star Trek is coming as fast as it is. Star Trek Discovery is coming in January 2017. We're very excited about it. I am very excited about it. I've just spent the summer gushing about two fantastic Star Trek books. We just had our big Star Trek spectacular last week, and it went great. But I need a new Star Trek show. I need what that show means, the hopefulness of it, the optimism, the interesting, weird, mind-bending stuff, the kind of level-headed progressivism that's still there, and just the great storytelling. I mean, there's just fantastic storytelling. I think sometimes Star Trek gets patted on the back so much from just, they were the first person to have, or they were the first show to have an interracial kiss. They were the first show to do this. They were the first show to do that. They look towards the future. Progress, progress, progress. Yes, that's all true. But it's just fantastic storytelling. It is just the best storytelling, that's out there on television a lot of times. I agree that there's a lot of not so great and some pretty mediocre Star Trek in the early 2000s. But if you go back to Deep Space Nine, all the seeds of serialized storytelling, all the seeds of characters being impacted by the events of their lives, all the things that we love about modern prestige television, you can trace all of them back to Deep Space Nine. So Brian Fuller's Star Trek Discovery is coming out in January. Hold on. I'm not done. It's coming out as... Just let me say 20 more things.
Go ahead.
It's coming out in January 2017. Before that, Dorking Out is launching its first spin-off show, Dorking Out about Star Trek Discovery. So watch this feed. That's coming. Peter Brown, you were desperately wanting to say something profound about Star Trek. What is it?
Well, not necessarily about Star Trek, but look, I don't want to be that guy, but
you know who's always that guy?
Fall. That is winter.
Yeah,
I don't care. Okay, be that guy.
He's a cheater.
That's right.
That
I
is
cheated.
Not a fall show.
All right.
January is winter.
You know what? Then I take Star Trek back. Forget everything I just said for some reason. My third.
No, now you're giving him a fourth pick, Peter.
Way to go, Peter.
No, I want a fall. This is a fall preview. Damn it.
Yeah, this is going to be this fall previews all the way to 2017 when HBO's third World War II series comes in the form of the Mighty Eighth. This is the third in a series that started with Band of Brothers, then went to the Pacific. Now we're back in Europe for the air war of World War II. It's a 10-part HBO miniseries. They've been shooting it since 2015. It's called The Mighty Eighth. I'm excited for it.
Yes.
There you go.
Me too. I'm super excited for that too, actually. I loved Band of Brothers. It's one of my favorite all-time shows of all-time miniseries. Pacific was good too. It's not as good as Band of Brothers, but it's very, very good. And I have no doubt this one will be great too.
Oh, so I got a question for you because I was trying to do research. It's one of those things where every time I read about the Mighty Eighth, which was written, I can't remember the name of the author. Check for those of you playing Alzheimer's bingo at home, check the center box. Every time I read about the show, it's like, it's probably in the next 6 months. They're going to announce when it's going to come out. Probably in the next couple of months, we're going to find out when it premieres on HBO. Nothing. When is this? Have you heard anything about when this is premiering on HBO?
No, not at all.
The reason I'm talking about it is they've put out a little bit of art, and they've been shooting it since summer of 2015. So we know that it's coming, but when it's getting here, God only knows.
Yeah, HBO doesn't usually like to do things in the winter. It seems they usually like to do things in the fall, and the spring, and summer. So I would guess it probably will come spring.
Maybe. But let's not forget that Band of Brothers premiered September 9th, 2001.
Yeah. But don't you think we would have heard something by now?
Yes, that's true. No, it's definitely not coming in the fall.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Maybe fall 2017.
Probably.
Is the author Gerald Astor?
Probably. Is it, what's it called? It's not called Masters of the Air. It's called... what's it called?
I'm just seeing something here called The Mighty Eighth.
The Mighty Eighth, and it is based on a book that...
The Air War in Europe as told by...
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
You're correct.
There you go.
All right, so anyway, enough hemming, enough hawing. That is our fall 2016 television preview. And before you write your letters and talk to us about all the stuff that we haven't yet seen, we're going to quickly blast through our television to-do lists to let you know that if we haven't talked about your favorite show, it's probably because we haven't seen it, and there's so much great stuff out there. Peter Brown, I think we ambushed you with this topic, so you might not have your to-do list. Sonia Mansfield.
I don't have my to-do list.
Sonia Mansfield, what are some of the shows that everybody right now is probably assuming that you've seen, that you haven't seen, that you're going to get to?
I have 4 on my list.
Let's hear them.
I have The Americans, Silicon Valley,
Great show.
and You're the Worst.
I have not heard much about You're the Worst, but the others I've heard are either great or I've seen them and they are great. I
have friends that are in love with You're the Worst, and they have been begging me to watch it. So
interesting.
It's on my list.
All right. For me, it's Mr. Robot, The Americans, The Night Manager, which I know is a miniseries.
I've seen that one.
I hear it's great. Billions, which I hear is fantastic. I haven't seen it. I listened to a podcast by the co-creator of that show, and he is super smart. It's called The Moment. It's on the Panoply podcasting network. It's great. And Netflix's Narcos. Plus, season 2 of Daredevil, the rest of Jessica Jones, Luke Cage. I think about it. Man, there's a lot of stuff on here. And we didn't even get to the upcoming HBO show, The Young Pope. We're going to have to talk about that. We got a preview for it, but we're going to have to talk about that next time because we are running out of time. Peter Brown, where can people find you on the web?
Twitter at Peter Brown AX.
Sonia Mansfield, we know where to find you.
Yeah,
all right. Thanks,
Peter.
Peter.
Know where to find me at the bar.
That's right. Thanks for being on the show, Peter. We'll talk to you soon.
Oh, of course. Thank you.
All right, that brings us to topic 2, the state of late night television. And the excuse we are using to jump into this topic is Stephen Colbert has just finished his first year as host of The Late Show, taking over for David Letterman, vacating his all-time Hall of Fame performance on the Colbert Report on Comedy Central to go to a bigger and better stage, possibly not. So to set the scene here a little bit, here are the ratings in millions of viewers for the week, one of the last weeks of August. The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, 3.18 million. Late Show with Stephen Colbert, 2.14 million. Jimmy Kimmel, 1.97 million. Seth Meyers, 1.51 million. Late Show with James Corden, 1.06 million. And then Nightline, I don't know why they keep doing this. Nightline is 1.25 million. Last Call with Carson Daly, 0.
I'm sorry, that's still on.
Well, no, okay. As a Conan fan, be careful what you laugh at.
Okay.
Last Call with Carson Daly, 0.87 million. Then when we go to Colbert, or when we go to cable, Conan O'Brien, the former host of The Tonight Show for about 8 months, 260,000, 0.26 million. But that beats out The Daily Show with Trevor Noah, which is 0.2, 200,000 viewers. So with that, let's get on to talking about late night. Sonia Mansfield.
Yes.
Talk to me about your thoughts on late night television. What do you watch? What do you don't watch? Have you been watching Stephen Colbert since he jumped to CBS? Why should we care?
I was a really big fan of the Colbert Report. I actually watched it pretty regular. And then I was excited because I love Stephen Colbert so much that he was jumping to CBS. And then I watched the first episode and I thought it was just fine. It was just okay.
Right.
And I kind of watched a couple more and I was like, it's fine. It's okay. I was I guess I was kind of disappointed. And the truth is, like, I don't really watch like a ton of late night TV. Like a lot of people now, I tend to wait until the next day and then I watch whatever videos people are sharing.
Right.
So I find myself watching less and less of Colbert because Colbert doesn't have that viral content, I guess, that is shareable.
Yeah.
So I'm not seeing like carpool karaoke and, you know, Jimmy Fallon's like lip sync battles or whatever. Like, he's just not doing the stuff that people are excited about sharing. But I did watch some of the stuff because he kind of seems like he found his voice again when he started getting back into politics.
Yeah.
And I like that stuff, but I think he's probably alienating a lot of the like more conservative, like CBS audience that he's getting. And that's why we're seeing like his ratings are, you know, not super exciting.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is it's hard to tell exactly what kind of audience he would be alienating. One of the things I liked about him is he was trying to do a more conversational show when he started, and you could see for the first couple months that he was trying to find his footing. I remember he had Jeb Bush on like the first night or something. And early in his run, he had Trump on and he had Ted Cruz on, and he would you could see he was trying to carve out a space where people that he didn't necessarily agree with could come on his show and they could have a kind of grown-up discussion.
Right.
And I remember one time where Cruz said something and the audience started to kind of hiss and boo. And Colbert like looked at his audience and said, no, we're not doing that here. We're, you know, we might not, you know, not everybody might agree, but we're not going to just shout people down or whatever. We're going to talk about this. We're going to have that kind of show. And then they went on, and it was kind of interesting because when he was talking to Bush, you could tell that he kind of liked Bush. You could, and especially as Trump rose, you could tell that he was kind of more hopeful for Bush, and he kept taking shots at Hillary. And it's always dangerous to read a comic or a performer's intent based on the jokes that they're telling and who they're taking shots at. But after a while, you can kind of get a pretty good pulse. And it didn't seem like, you know, Colbert was as ready to jump on Republicans, you know, kind of what a lot of New York-based shows are usually take their shots at Republicans and kind of soft pedal the jokes that they shoot at Democrats. Usually it's kind of like Democrats are dumb and evil, Republicans are kind of dumb and evil, and Democrats are kind of lovable scamps. Like, they can't
keep it in their pants.
Exactly. Bill Clinton said it again. What are you going to do? That kind of stuff.
Right.
And he kind of went back and forth, and it was really interesting. But I think I think he's having a hard time finding his voice. He started these, in the last 6 months, he's begun to start the show with these weird little skits and stuff, almost like Life Around the Office of the Colbert Report. It's almost as though they were trying to take a page from Larry Sanders or something to kind of show what it's like as they're preparing the show or whatever. But they're just really tone deaf, and they're actually, for me, getting worse. And it's an interesting way to start the show because you don't just start with the theme and then the monologuist comes out and starts telling jokes. It's like a little skit that opens the show, and then they go to the more traditional opening, and he's just not as sharp. He's never been as sharp. He's never been as on point, I don't think, anywhere in these in his first year as he was on the Colbert Report. And
maybe he's more comfortable playing a character than being himself.
He might be. I mean, that's the thing, is he was unbelievably sharp on The Daily Show when he was a correspondent. He's been unbelievably sharp in interviews. And there are moments when he's talking to actors or actresses or kind of creators or authors or whatever on the late night show where you could see that he's engaged. And there are moments where it's like, wow, this is really electric. This is really meaningful. You know, when Joe Biden was on and he was talking about the death of his son and, you know, what and deciding whether or not to run for president, there were some really heartfelt moments that really connected. even if you don't agree with Biden's politics. And I admire Colbert for trying to break through the artificial laugh factory that kind of gets made up of, we're gonna have this actor or actress out here. We're gonna pretend like we're friends, and we're gonna laugh about this thing that my producer already told me, and all that kind of, basically everything. He it looked like.
Are you saying he doesn't do stuff like that? Because I watched the post Super Bowl episode, and it seemed exactly like that. Where it was so awkward.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is it seemed like he was making movements away from that, but it's kind of like how Johnny Carson's show was back a million years ago, where they would just kind of talk and rap and BS. But the problem with that is, if the person's not that interesting, or they don't happen to have a good story or whatever, it just kind of meanders and becomes boring, and who cares?
Right.
Or you get things that are overproduced, where, segment producers talk to the guests, talk to the host, get them to talk about this specific anecdote, set up the beginning of the anecdote so we know how, which is Jimmy Fallon's show, which can be very fun and has a good energy sometimes, but there's not an authentic moment in the hour.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think what I've been noticing is, because I kind of TiVo most of these and then just kind of skip around on them the next day because I'm old. I'm trying to finish this stupid book also. Anyway, so yeah, I love Stephen Colbert. For me, he's the funniest thing that's happened in comedy in the last 15 years. Just his run on the Colbert Report is just unbelievable. And he was able to skewer people left, right, and center, and it was a beautiful thing.
It was so funny.
That's the thing that was so great about it, is because when he played his character, he could make fun of the right and Republicans and Fox News, but when he needed to, he could use that kind of gotcha thing, and he could go after people on the left because he had built this character that went after people on the left. And he could actually, and it would be funny because sometimes you'd see him play this, right-leaning buffoon, but then he'd start to nail them a little bit.
Right.
And they'd be kind of like, ha, 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 ha. And then they'd realize, oh crap, he's kind of tearing me apart here. And then they'd push back, and it would be very interesting. He wouldn't just do what I think Jon Stewart ended up doing in the later stages of the Daily Show, where he would just, he would do rightly serious questions to people, Republicans and people on the right. And then a lot of times people on the left, it would be, why are you so great? Why?
I didn't notice that.
I've got a question. Is it hard being as great as you are? Why are people so mean?
I don't think he did that. I disagree.
He definitely did that. The thing that I miss about Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert is, Stewart, when he got going, he would go after the right, he would go after the left, but he would mainly go after the media.
Right.
And he would mainly call out the BS on cable, and he would, he got Crossfire canceled with a couple of jokes.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Which is great. And he would call BS on what the media was doing, and he kind of did that less and less and less, and just got more and more ranty. So yeah, it's funny. Now I think I was interested in thinking about Colbert in this segment and the, taking the 1 year anniversary. And now that I'm thinking, there's not really anybody that I watch on a consistent basis anymore.
The only person I would say I'm watching on a consistent basis right now is Samantha Bee's show, Full Frontal, on TBS, which I think she's on fire. Like, she's just killing it. I think she's so funny. And it's closest to The Daily Show, in my opinion. And I was a big fan of Jon Stewart's Daily Show. So
yeah.
But she definitely has her own voice.
Yeah, and I really like her. She's, it's funny. Trevor Noah,
yeah,
the guy that took over for him. How is it that Samantha Bee did not get that show?
I don't know.
Have they talked? Because I thought that I had heard, because Samantha Bee is married to Jason Jones. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's what I thought. And I thought that they had given some interviews where they basically said they never even considered her.
Yeah. And then she got like a deal with TBS and was like, bye.
Exactly. And that's the thing is the show was coming to an end. She got her deal, took off. John Oliver got his deal, went to NBC.
HBO.
Or HBO. Colbert was already gone.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I've
watched some of Trevor Noah on The Daily Show, and that's another one where at first I was like, no, because it just wasn't working for me because I love Jon Stewart so much.
Yeah.
And then he kind of grew on me, but the truth is not enough to keep watching.
Yeah.
Like I'm not watching.
Yeah. And
she's the one I'm consistently watching, and then every once in a while I'll go on like a jag and watch a whole bunch of John Oliver's.
Yeah. John Oliver, I think, is good. He's funny, but sometimes his show's interesting because he will do basically 15-minute long essays on a subject, and they'll take the whole week. His staff will take the whole week to research some subject, like they did charter schools and they did, student lending, I think, and they've done a bunch of stuff. And it's really great because he'll go on basically an epic, huge, pretty well researched, pretty funny rant on something. But if you're not interested in the thing he's ranting about, good night. See you in 7 days.
One of the things I like is that he tries to offer some sort of solution,
right?
Or a way that you can help.
Yeah,
which I really like, and I think that's something Colbert used to do too, and it was something I used to really like about his show. Like he would tell a story, and then here's how you can donate, or I'm going to have an auction, and we're going to raise money for this, and yeah. I like that. So then you watch these things, and you don't turn off the TV, and you're just so angry. It's like, well, there's something I can do. I could donate. I can, write a letter. I can, whatever it is, that they ask you to do. So I do like it a lot.
Yeah. Is there anybody that we watch anymore? Or is that the thing? Is late night TV just kind of dead? We talked about this. We talked about, years ago, they talked about how television was a vast wilderness. And it's not a wilderness. It's a flood. We're being flooded.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff. And maybe that's it. There's just so much good stuff. There's so much other interesting things to watch. And everybody is trying so hard that there's not one, I don't want to say unifying voice, but there's not even 2 or 3 unifying voices anymore. Is late night TV just kind of a dead, done thing?
I think it's just, now it's all about like creating something that people will share the next day.
Right.
And I think, Jimmy Fallon seems to do it really well. Right. James Corbin does it with his carpool karaoke. I'm like, we haven't even mentioned Jimmy Kimmel.
Well, yeah, Jimmy Kimmel.
Kimmel's one of those ones where I really don't watch it at all, except when he does the Halloween video where the parents they lie to the kids and say that they ate all their Halloween candy and all the kids cry.
Right.
That's the only thing I watch.
That's the black heart of Sonia Mansfield that I know and love.
Oh, that's not true. And I watched the After the Oscars.
That's right. Well, yeah, it's funny because Jimmy Kimmel I don't watch him very much at all.
And it's not because I don't like him. It's just,
yeah,
I don't watch it.
Yeah, I think his web stuff is the best. It is the funniest. It's the sharpest. It goes in more directions. Jimmy Fallon is just so desperate to be liked. And when he's doing something that's fun, it is fun. But when it's not really that fun and he's laughing so hard and he's trying so hard to make it fun.
Yeah, and you could see him sweat.
Yeah, it's kind of aggravating.
Yeah.
I appreciate the attempt, but I'm just like, meh. So you were saying before we got on Mike that you watched Larry Wilmore.
I did. I used to watch The Nightly Show, but that's another one where I watched it pretty consistently, and then it just I kind of stopped watching. But then I would watch it the next day, like watch a segment on like Facebook or whatever, and I really like Larry Wilmore. I think he's really funny. And I think he was talking about stuff that maybe not everybody was talking about.
Yeah.
And it's disappointing.
Yeah.
You know, because I felt like he had a really interesting voice and was offering a point of view that we weren't getting in late night. So his cancellation's a bummer.
Yeah, I think that for me, he talked about a lot of stuff that didn't get talked about, and that was great. And I do think that there is a void now that he's not going to be on every day anymore. But I think he wasn't.
You know what it was? It was that round table stuff at the end that just wasn't doing for people. I think it just wasn't clicking for people. Like his stuff behind the desk and the filmed segments and his stuff with his correspondence, that stuff was all really funny. And then just the stuff on the round table was kind of like that's kind of the part where I would kind of tune out.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but that was, especially after the death of John McLaughlin a couple weeks ago, I think Larry Wilmore said he had meant his round table to be like a funny version of the McLaughlin group.
Right.
And it's like when he said it, it's like, oh, I see kind of what you were going for. I don't think you got anywhere near that, but all right, good on you for trying.
That stuff just never clicked for me like the rest of it. So then he had like half of a good show. I think Larry Wilmore is really funny, and I hope he lands somewhere else. You know,
it's funny.
I know he was on the Colbert's Late Show.
Yeah,
last week, and
that was funny. You know, I think that's the thing is, Samantha Bee should have been on the Daily Show. What happened? What happened at the Daily Show where they went? They had a murderer's row of funny people working there that they could have just handed the show to, and they didn't pick any of them.
No, I think maybe they were worried. They wanted like a whole new voice.
Yeah.
After Jon Stewart, I guess.
But they had Stephen Colbert. They had Larry Wilmore. They had so many people. They had Rob Corddry.
Hear that I heard this. They offered the show to Amy Schumer.
I heard that. Yeah.
And then she was like, "No, thanks. I'm going to be a movie star now," which is, good for her.
Yeah. But well, good for her. I don't know if
she wouldn't have been the right fit for that show.
Yeah, they had Stephen Carell. If you think about the people that went through that show, it's just astounding. Yeah. They could have almost picked anyone other than the guy that they picked.
Who wasn't even a correspondent on the show, was he?
No, here's the thing.
Oh, no, he had been. He had been
a correspondent on the show for like
2 weeks or something.
Or like it was like 2 months technically. And I remember seeing him on the show going, "Oh, this guy's all right, I guess. I can kind of see where they're going." And then when they announced, "Oh, we're handing the show over to him." It's like, "What? That guy?" And then do you remember Samantha Bee's, we're running over on time, so we got to wrap up here in a second. Okay. Do you remember Samantha Bee's goodbye?
I don't.
On the show?
I don't.
She did not get to say goodbye.
Oh, there you go.
They brought her out, they played this package, and then they came back from the package, and then Stewart kind of got up and went over and kind of put his arm around her. She wasn't, or she might have been mic'd, but they didn't pot up the mic. And then, and then it kind of went to commercial, and she was gone.
Oh.
And it was just, and it seemed very weird. Like, it was almost like the camera was moving over to shoot, to have her say something, and then it went to black. And
she's getting the last laugh now because
she is.
Her show is on point, and The Daily Show not so much. And she's nominated for many an Emmy, and The Daily Show, and the first time in 16 years, is not.
Yes.
So
yeah, we miss you, Stephen Colbert, wherever you are. That brings us to our favorite headlines of the week. Sonia Mansfield, what is the headline that tickled you this week?
I love this headline. I don't really care to watch the show, but I love the headline. NBC wants to make a sexy Oliver Twist show.
Now, didn't I read about this? It's a procedural, right?
Yes. Why? First of all, why not just make it another show? Like, how is that even remotely connected to Oliver Twist?
I don't know.
This is how desperate people are getting for like intellectual property rights or what, like this is for known properties.
Right.
Like that we're now just like It's going to be a sexy Oliver Twist, but it's going to be a woman, and her name's not Oliver, and she's not an orphan, or that's ridiculous.
Well, Sonia, they're going after the coveted Oliver Twist fan base, which I believe are ensconced in English literature departments on second-tier campuses all over this great country of ours.
I love the idea of kind of like a hot woman who's like, "Please, sir, can I have some more?" Wink. It's like,
wow, you've turned me around on this.
I'm into it.
Keep going. What else might she say, Sonia? Hold on while I text you some potential lines. Hold on here. All right. Well, yeah, it's funny. I was listening to the second 50-year mission volume that came out last week. And they were talking about in the later stages when Star Trek was on UPN, Voyager, and Enterprise were on there, that the network heads would just start sending them stuff, and they asked if they could turn Star Trek into some sort of crime-solving procedural.
Of course they did.
I think what it is if you get out of...
So it's like NCIS Star Trek.
That's right, which is funny because theoretically you could do a pretty cool...
Actually, you could.
You could do a Star Trek show where it's just them going around solving crimes and putting people on trial and stuff, and it would fit within that world, and that's because the Star Trek world is so malleable when it comes to how you can tell stories. However, it's almost as though network executives have some weird sort of Tourette's where they get out of business school, they move to Los Angeles, they do, a bump or two too much of cocaine, and then they just start saying, can you make it a procedural? Can you make it edgy? Can you make it sexy? I like this, but can we do it as a young hot woman instead of a, and then you explain to them, well, actually, this is a remake of Mr. Tibbs from the 60s. I don't know if we should make this, iconic black character a young white girl. He said, all right, can we do young Hispanic? You know what I mean? It's just, they have a list of
Why not?
Of 10. It's what it is. It's like Mad Libs. They have a Mad Libs where they just pick different random, verbs and nouns that sound like something having to do with stories, all of them skewing young and white, and then just throw them at every show creator out there. Because
I have this really great idea. It's for it's like a sexy Huck Finn.
What's sad is how plausible that is.
I love it. And then there'll be the spin-off with a sexy Tom Sawyer.
And then, now, Sonia, here's the thing. Then when when Tom Sawyer and Becky Thatcher get together, it's actually Thomasina. No, it's Tommy Sawyer, Tomi.
Yeah.
And then Becky with an I, they get together. There you go. That's
for
your show.
sweeps.
That's for sweeps. That's your modern version. Yeah, see, we're joking, but listening audience, look us in the eye and tell us that you cannot see some CW executive right now tapping their chin thinking, could we do that? Yeah, they could do that. They will do that. So,
what's your favorite headline?
My favorite headline, I kind of picked just to mess with you. This goes back to our fall movie preview episode where you were saying you were not going to watch Mel Gibson's new movie, Hacksaw Ridge, about a pacifist
because I
trying
have
to
a
make
hard time separating the horrible things that people do from their art.
That's true. Well, that's not always a horrible thing to do. Case in point, Chris Brown last week.
Right.
Item 540 on reasons maybe we shouldn't pay attention to him anymore. For those of you who don't know, he got into a little skirmish with the Los Angeles Police Department. And for once, it seems as though this might not be the LAPD's fault. But Hacksaw Ridge I think I figured it out. I think I figured out the dividing line for me is you can do horrible stuff. If you apologize, and if you haven't broken any laws, and if you've done something to communicate your remorse. And if you've done those things, I think we should, in all layers of society, not just Hollywood, be big enough to give people at least second chances and go back. So I don't think, if I remember correctly, don't check me on this internet, I don't think he's tripped over any of those wires. He's kind of gone to director jail for a decade. He has apologized. He's kept a very low profile. He does have a lot of talent. He hasn't killed anyone. He hasn't raped anyone. He hasn't shot anyone. He hasn't grievous bodily harmed anyone. You know, so he could play. He could have played in the NFL 10 years ago with the rap sheet he's got. So he's fine.
Like the NFL now.
Actually, now that I think about it, why hasn't he been making movies for the last 10 years? Now we know Hollywood is less corrupt than the National Football League. Anyway.
There you go.
So, yeah. Anyway, Hacksaw Ridge premiered this week for critics, I think at the Venice Film Festival. And it's gotten really good reviews from The Guardian, Hollywood Reporter, Variety. It is looking real good, and I think we said this before. It is about a conscientious objector in World War II who will not fight, but he still does want to serve against in the fight against the Nazis. And, you know, the case of, you know, kind of what happened with him, and then what happened with him when he objected, and then what happened with him when he went to the front. It stars Andrew Garfield and Vince Vaughn, directed by Sonia's favorite Mad Max, Mel Gibson.
Right.
Poke, poke, poke. So, yeah, interested in it. Does this in any way, anything I've just said, or any consideration since our fall movie preview, does this do anything towards having you go see Mel Gibson's Hacksaw Ridge?
I know you really want to see it and you really want to talk about it, which means I'll probably end up seeing it. I need to work on my willingness I need to separate people's bad behavior from their art and see it and think about that. And you told me how you saw this headline, and then below it was like other articles where it's like, how do we separate directors' bad behavior from their art? And this is something you and I have talked about a lot on this show. So I'm glad everybody's finally catching up to us.
That's right. And I think we're going to have to do this with a movie that's coming up in a couple of weeks. Is a movie that was buzzed about a lot when it came to the 2017 Oscars, which was Birth of a Nation, the story of the revolution that made Haiti an independent country, the only successful slave rebellion in history. But unfortunately, the director was once accused of and acquitted of rape, but the story doesn't end there. And yeah, that's another instance where this movie's getting a huge amount of positive buzz, but it's very problematic when it comes to, or it could be very problematic.
It's hard because you don't want to support it. You don't want to, you feel like you're supporting somebody and you're like enabling their bad behavior or something by giving them your money to see a movie.
Right. But are you enabling their bad behavior when they were acquitted?
Right.
Mean, and this is a question is, okay, because we live in this gossip culture, especially when it comes to Hollywood and pop culture. It's just, and a lot of this stuff is usually talked about.
I feel like that's different. We're talking about something that happened like 20 years ago and he was acquitted.
Exactly. That was my point is, one, we're talking about something that happened a long time ago.
Is it my favorite thing? It isn't.
Yeah.
Two, it's a red flag, but.
Yeah. Two, he was acquitted, so possibly he had not done anything.
Right.
And how long are people supposed to live, and maybe this is an instance where we need to start pushing back in this kind of gossip freak out culture on the internet, which is, look, the guy was acquitted. It was 20 years ago. The person who accused him did end up having a tragic end. So, it sounds like she was in an awful lot of pain. So who knows what the real story is? Are we supposed to just assume the worst about everybody and kick everybody out of the, we can't really be, I don't think we should be really puritanical in the way that we deal with a lot of this stuff.
If we want to, not support the art of people who've done bad things, then we probably, there's a lot of paintings out there that we shouldn't be looking at and a lot of classical music that we shouldn't be listening to. Yeah. And, what I'm saying, like, it's always been that way.
Yeah.
It's always been that way. And
I think, I agree with you. And I think I think that's where I'm starting to push back. Because if you go back, let's go back to Abraham Lincoln. If you read some of the stuff,
his work.
Yeah, his work is great. His letters are the best. You go back 50 years, 100 years, you can find people that are kind of like us, but whatever. You go back 150 years, 200 years, there is no one on earth you will be able to find that hasn't said something that would end their career in this day and age. So I think we need, when it comes to thinking about how we should take in people's culture and how we should think about things, we shouldn't just, let everybody through the gate and pretend like nobody does anything wrong. But I think we do need to begin to think about having a wider field of acceptance than we have been in, let's say, the last 2 or 3 years, kind of where we've gotten to in the last 2 or 3 years. And I think, the world is big enough for somebody like a Mel Gibson that said some horrible things, really made an ass of himself, was very horrible in a lot of ways, but does have some talent, has worked to kind of rehabilitate himself, and it seems as though has more good films in him, and we should at least give him a chance.
Yeah.
In a world...
All right, I'll see it.
in a world where Adam Sandler is still making one movie a year like clockwork.
We need good movies.
Why can't we let Mel Gibson...
You're right. You know what? I'm just going to let everything slide now. I'm just going to let it slide. It's all worth it for a good movie.
Hey, one, they're hard to come by. Two, Woody Allen has been working unbroken since the stuff that he did.
I don't see Woody Allen movies either.
That's true. Because they're boring. And with that, thank you for listening. We appreciate the listenership. Please go to iTunes. Please rate us. Please let us know what you think. If you don't like us, don't break your neck. You can get at it at some point.
Just keep it to yourself.
That's right.
You don't have anything nice to say.
Yeah. Say it on someone else's podcast. No.
Yes.
But until next time, this is Chris and Sonia saying, this is Chris and Sonia.
And goodbye.
Bye!
The Dorking Out Show is on Twitter at Dorking Out Show, where you can find Chris at Jet Jurgens and Sonia at The Sonia Show. You can read about Sonia's random adventures at thesoniashow.com and track the slow and creeping progress of Chris's novel and his other hijinks at jetjurgens.com. You can find out more about The Dorking Out Show at dorkingoutshow.com. While you're over there, You can support us by giving us a review on iTunes. We have a handy-dandy iTunes link to whisk you right back to 2007, where you can leave your review and 5-star rating in iTunes. We'd do it for your podcast. Want to dork out even more? Well, you can sign up for our newsletter, where you'll get all the headlines we use as fuel for the show. That's it for this week. Thanks for listening.